two of the recent Lattafa releases, Habik, which is a nice, interesting clone of a very good but unfortunately discontinued fragrance, and then Dynasty, the other one that I'm going to talk about, which turned out to be a very, very likable, versatile fragrance. Hey guys, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman, and it's time for your dose of some fragrance content. Today I'm going to review two fragrances which I talked about my first impressions in a video a couple of weeks ago. They're called Habik and Dynasty. I'm going to start with Habik, which, as I said in the opening of this video, is an interesting clone with a twist of a fragrance from the brand of Jean Paul Gaultier, which unfortunately is discontinued. The original fragrance is called Jean Paul Gaultier Le Mot Essence de Parfum. In my first impressions about this one, I wasn't very impressed with the fragrance, and probably that got some people angry about, my initial thoughts on this one, got some people angry for some reason. The good thing that I'm about to say now is the fact that in the past few weeks since I did my first impressions video on this one, this has changed a little bit and changed for the better. So I'm a little bit more into this fragrance compared to when I first tried it. But I'm going to talk about that in a second. First of all, let's take a very quick look at the packaging and the presentation. The fragrance comes packaged in this silver and sort of a purple colored box that has this sort of a velvety finish on some of the sides. On the front you got the name of the fragrance, the bottle size 100 milliliters and the concentration EDP. You get a sticker of authenticity, and on one of the sides you get some additional information. The production date, if anyone is interested, is June of 2025, so it's had about a few months of sitting around. And then this is the way that the bottle looks. I'm looking for the front part of the bottle. It has this, it's a regular looking bottle otherwise, but has this sort of a plasticky wrap around, which has these fake crystals and all that. Whether you find the look of the bottle beautiful or whether you find it tacky, I'm going to leave to you. I personally am not the biggest fan of the bottle design. The cap though is an interesting thing because it's a plastic inside and metallic coating, and this is a very heavy cap. And it's a pretty snug fit. Overall, the bottle has nice heft and good quality, and the presentation is a little bit more on the subtle side. The sprayer is nice, feels kind of pressurized, which is a good thing. Now I'm going to spray it on a paper strip a few times so I can talk about the scent itself. As I said, this fragrance is inspired by Essence de Parfum, Le Mot Essence de Parfum from Jean Paul Gaultier. A very interesting fragrance that unfortunately has been discontinued, can be hard to find, prices can reach crazy high levels. The good thing is that now we have two decent clones of that original fragrance. Now, Habik opens up quite spicy, slightly green. There's the cardamom note is quite strong, and the pepper note, there's a black pepper note with this fragrance, which is very present. The good thing is that it's not as strong as it used to be once this was a brand new bottle. A couple of weeks of maturation, maceration, sitting around, aging, whatever you want to call it, has helped settle a little bit the pepperiness in the opening, because this used to be very sharp, very peppery the first time I tried it, the first few days that I tried it. There are a bit of a citrusy freshness in this one you'll also find, and you'll also find lots of lavender, just like you find with the original fragrance. The original also used to have this mix of the cardamom, the lavender with a bit of pepperiness. Habik is a more peppery, a more spicy take on the original fragrance. Now, as I said, in the past few weeks that I've had this one, it started to settle and now sits a lot closer in the opening to the original fragrance compared to when I first got it, but still I find this one to be more like a spicier, a warmer, a slightly more Middle Eastern take on the original scent. There isn't much sweetness in the opening of this one. That's another area where this differs a little bit compared to the original fragrance, because the original had this nice amount of vanillic sweetness in the opening and then on the dry down. The more this dries down, the less peppery it becomes. It still remains quite a bit aromatic, but on the dry down it becomes a little bit woody. There's a sandalwood note with this fragrance. There's a bit of tonka bean, which adds this sort of a powdery feel. You'll start to get a little bit of the vanillic sweetness, but this never becomes really that sweet of a fragrance. And it's also a little bit musky. And if I have to compare it again to the original fragrance, I find this to be a more peppery, a more spicy take in the opening, and then the dry down to be a little bit less sweet than Le Mot Essence de Parfum, which used to have more vanillic sweetness. Also, another note that this doesn't have listed on its official note breakdown is the note of suede leather. It's here, but again, it's a lot less prominent than compared to the original fragrance. In the air, this smells somewhat similar to Essence de Parfum, but it's not a direct clone. This is more like an inspiration, in my opinion. And you know, it's a more aromatic, a more spicy, a warmer, a less sweet version of the original fragrance. Again, the good thing about this one is that with a few weeks of sitting around, it actually got better. This is now, it's a little bit sweeter on the dry down and slightly less peppery in the opening than it used to feel. Performance wise, it's a good performing scent. When we talk about autumn longevity, I've been getting somewhere between 7 to 8 hours of performance on my skin. Where this lacks a little bit is the projection. Initially, when you first spray it, that pepperiness helps a little bit with the projection, but soon after that it starts to sit closer to the skin. And overall, I would say that the projection on this one is more on the subtle side. It's not something very loud or anything like that, so keep that in mind. It's not a bad performer, but not great either. Price wise, I think it costs in Europe somewhere between 25 to 30 euros. I think I paid slightly less than 30 euros, so you're looking at about $35 as a price tag, which probably with time will drop a little bit, but since this is a relatively new release, this may be a little bit more expensive, but still compared to the prices of a bottle of the original fragrance, if you can find one at all, is a lot lower. So this seems like a fantastic deal compared to some of the listings on eBay of the original. And when it comes to versatility, it's a nice masculine subtle fragrance that you can wear to the office, you can wear on a night out. It's you know, a fragrance that probably people around you will like, but again, just keep in mind that it doesn't project very loudly, and it's an all year round fragrance in my opinion. And now let's talk about the other one, which personally for me was more of a like and was more of a pleasant surprise, and I find it to be a little bit more interesting. It's called Dynasty, and this is supposedly a clone of a fragrance from the brand of Clive Christian, which is called El Red Tea Lover or something like that. I'm going to attach a photo of the original fragrance somewhere here so you can check it out. Quick look at the packaging and the presentation. The bottle is this dark, sort of a red colored box with silver accents. You got this thing on the front here that says also the name of the fragrance, the brand, and all that. 100 milliliter bottle size, EDP concentration. Again, if anyone is interested, the production date here is July of 2025. Let's check out the sprayer in action. It's a good sprayer, although the one on Habik is actually a little bit better. Let's use a few sprays on a test strip and talk about the scent. Now, I've never tried the original fragrance that this is supposed to be inspired by, but this brings me somewhat of vibes from something like Louis Vuitton's Imagination. I'm not saying this is a clone of Imagination, because it's not, for sure. But especially the opening can feel a bit similar, because this opens up fresh, bright and citrusy. There's quite a present ginger note with this one, and there's that floral herbal thing that has going on, and that's the sort of a tea note with this one. So in a way, the opening here can feel to you guys like similar to Imagination. To me, this also feels similar to Imagination. It feels similar to Essence de Blanc from the brand of French Avenue, for example, but this is not an Imagination clone. And I've been really digging the opening. Also has a bit of a soapy vibe, which is an interesting touch. There's maybe a hint of a raspberry note, which adds just a tiny little bit of sweetness. Keep in mind that this is not a sweet fragrance in general, although on the dry down there some ambers are starting to creep in. But overall, this opens up very fresh, very bright, very aromatic, very floral, and it's just a fresh and sort of a nice fragrance. But the opening especially can feel a little bit more on the mature side because of that florals that this one has. Now, the more that this dries down, the more woody it becomes. There's some cedar on the dry down. There's a bit of a suede leather with this fragrance. A bit of ambery sweetness starts to show itself up. Some of that tea note will remain with you for a long time with this one, and it becomes sort of an feeling like dry on the deeper dry down. Feels sort of like woody powdery on its dry down. And overall, this is a very, very interesting fragrance that I actually have been enjoying a lot. And that soapy vibe remains even on the dry down. I find it to be very mature. I find it to be very versatile. It's a certain type of scent profile that can be worn throughout the year without any problem. So versatility wise, it's a very, very versatile fragrance. I cannot compare it to the original scent that is supposedly inspired by because I've never tried it, but again, it brings a bit of imagination vibes. Performance-wise, this is stronger than the other one. This lasts longer on my skin, lasts for about 8 hours, maybe even a little bit past the 8-hour mark, and this also projects better. It feels more aromatic and overall just projects better. This has good projection in the first about hour and a half. Price wise, pretty similar to the other one. We're talking about slightly less than 30 euros, so maybe slightly over the $30 mark in the US. The original fragrance that this is supposedly inspired by is very expensive, so compared to that one, this probably seems like a fantastic deal. And versatility wise, I would say this is a masculine scent that probably some girls can wear with, you know, if they are into this type of scents. And as I said, I find this one to be very, very versatile, that can be worn for any type of occasion throughout the year. Just keep in mind that, in my opinion, it has a bit of a mature vibe. So guys, in today's video I did my full review of two recent Lattafa launches that are called Habik, which is an interesting take on Essence de Parfum, Le Mot Essence de Parfum from Jean-Paul Gaultier, and Dynasty, which is a very, very interesting mix that I ended up liking a lot since the first spray. I hope that you found today's video interesting or helpful. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next video for your dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.